All right, we appreciate you guys coming. This is how Hackers for Charity possibly saved me a lot of money, and you'll understand a little bit later why. My name is Brandon Miller. I go by Fozzie, or at least I did in the Navy. I never really had a handle, but whenever I first started talking at these conferences, someone said either pick one or we'll give you one. So I said, I'll go with Fozzie because I'm fat, hairy, and tell bad jokes. So this is my daughter, Emily. She picked the name Okapi because the first presentation we gave was at ShmooCon, and she hated that I called her chicken in public, so she picked her own. But this is me. I'm just a pajama-wearing hipster. I love wearing my onesies around Christmas, talking about healthcare and drinking hot cocoa with my family. I'm an analyst, dad, husband, at three kids. This is the oldest of my children, and I'm a Christian. And my shout-out to, do you even know what a bollard is? All right, check out Bollardsville, bollardville.com. Wonderful website. The only internet site that I've seen dedicated to bollards.
Hello, I'm Emily, and I am a photographer for a lot of things other than nature, like my dog, which technically I guess is nature, but whatever. I'm obviously a kid. And I have a sister and a brother named Audrey and Isaac, and I am a Christian.
Now, what this talk is groundbreaking. We did not do any of this research ourselves. We begged, borrowed, and stole, mostly from Johnny Long, Hackers for Charity, and he gives it up willingly. So it's not like we did anything illegal, or we always give him credit. What it is, it's a growth opportunity for us. Once again, I was in the Navy for 20 years. I deployed a lot. So in her formative, what I like to call her formative years, I wasn't there. So now that we homeschool and I'm no longer in the Navy, we do a lot of things like this together. At least we will be. And of course, it's an opportunity for her to learn. I made her do all of it. Whenever I say we, I mean she. She did everything. And then for us, because we're Christians, it's a call to serve because we support a missionary in Kenya. Actually, a missionary in Somerset, Kentucky, who goes to Kenya. A little bit of background. So this is Emily. She's the one in pink. It's the last time she wore pink at age 5. That is her second camera. We bought her the first camera whenever she was 4. It was a little Barbie pink camera. It only took 10 pictures. It wasn't satisfying enough for her, so she asked for a point and shoot. And just because she knew what that was, we went ahead and bought her one. The next year, my in-laws all went to Kenya. This is actually Rift Valley, which is where Johnny Long's kids are in school. It's kind of funny, small world. They came back with all their stories of what they did on this medical mission trip and how they helped, and that's whenever Emily declared that she was going to go. And if we wouldn't send her, she was going to take herself. She was 6. She didn't go. In 2012, my wife's mom, my mother-in-law, she went back to Kenya, and the purpose for this was to stand up a clinic. The lady on the right, her name is Grace. Grace was a nurse on the 2006 medical mission trip. The reason why she was a nurse is she failed out of medical school, which meant in Kenya, if you get a B, you have to repeat that year over. Because she got married, her dad dropped her funding. So my mother-in-law said, well, how much could medical school cost? So she said, roughly $2,000. So my in-laws paid for it and said, don't pay us back, open up a clinic and help out the locals. So that's what she did. They all returned on a mission trip in 2012, October, so they went twice that year. And they adopted this school, which you can see the 3 trees in the middle. There's a school there. Believe me, there is. It's about 2 hours north of Nairobi, and literally someone has to run in front of the vehicle the whole way. They take turns, so that you don't hit potholes or get stuck because there's no roads.
When we went, they didn't take turns. When we went, they didn't take turns. The guy just ran all the way.
Yeah, crazy. Now, 2 hours away, it's only like 10 miles outside of the city, but yeah, you ran the whole way. These are some of the students. There's how many?
218, I think.
All right, 218 students. In Kenya, you have to pay for your own school, public school. It costs about $200 a year. That does include your books and your uniforms. This is an orphanage that my mother-in-law adopted. We say orphanage/school because of the 29 students. I don't know numbers. I just give. Of the 29 students, only 3 or 4 of them have funding to go to school. So the lady that runs the orphanage homeschools the rest of them. That's where Johnny Long and Hackers for Charity stepped in. Whenever they heard the story, because I stalked them, Johnny and Sam Kinch, at every con for the last probably 4 years, saying, how can I help? How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? And finally, Sam turned to me and said, build one of these for the school that you guys just adopted. I was like, hey, I can do that. And then I realized, well, she can. So Emily decided, she basically said, look, if you won't let me go to Kenya, I'm just going to be a photographer. And that's whenever I panicked. I don't know anything about art. I don't know how artists support themselves. Art, to me, I can identify art because I don't know what it is. Right? I look at something and I go, well, that's a wall. That's a neat looking thing on a shirt. That's probably art. That's my extension of art. So I literally panicked. Yeah, and I decided that I was going to refocus her energies into something technical because that's what I know. So here we are. That's me. Sometimes Emily clams up, but that's okay. So this was our plan. We were going to build a simple XBMC server because I wanted to get rid of DirecTV as a proof of concept. It never went live.
We also get all the movies. We got Frozen. Well, pretty much anything that's come out.
Theoretically, that could happen.
Sometimes they don't work.
They never work. It's in our lab only. Hypothetically. So we built a Rachel Pi with our good friends worldpossible.org. Install Windows 7 on a ThinkPad that was donated to us. Install Crouton. So who here has ever used Crouton? Crouton is a wonderful little program. You can install it on any Chromebook, and it allows for true dual boot with another Linux operating system. So there's no rebooting or putting it in developer mode. You literally hit 2 keys, and it puts that in it suspends the state almost like a VM, and opens up the other instance. So it's really nice. So you can switch back and forth between Chromebook and whatever you load. We loaded Ubuntu on the fly. It's nice. We were going to go to Kenya. She ended up going to Kenya with my wife. Yay, me. Install the Learning Network server and teach the staff. And then our end game was to talk at ShmooCon. I had always been trying, for years to talk at ShmooCon, never got picked. Not complaining. I was never really worthy. I put her name on the ShmooCon CFP, and she got selected. So since she's a minor, I get to go with her. So.
Okay, what really happened is he basically followed Sam around for years. And finally, he just bought the Pi. And then that's whenever we built the XBMC server so we could watch all the theoretical stuff. And built the Rachel Pi, went to Kenya, and we actually built a schoolhouse because they were just doing it in the living room, and they needed a place to teach the people. And they ended up actually using it as a dormitory for the girls because, yeah. We installed it, taught the staff, and then we went to a lot of other places, like ShmooCon and AID. Here's the steps to build a Rachel Pi. So first one, you got to buy the Raspberry Pi, the SD card.
Class 10, it has to be Class 10 because it's the fastest read and write capability, and you're actually going to be rendering video, not rendering video, but serving up video. This is actually a web server. We have it turned on right now. If you have a smartphone or anything, look for RPI, and you should be able to load up the courseware that the kids are using.
Yeah. Didn't understand a word of that really, but I try. Downloaded the Rachel Pi stuff. Um,
All right, wrote it to the SD card, set up the server, and then used it. Literally, it's if you print out the steps with pictures, it's 2.5 pages. Anyone can do it. The difference between what you would do and what I made her do is I made her do everything via command line using my Mac, and she didn't discover until we did this presentation at Lexmark last week that I actually had all the commands. I just made her go look for them. I made her Google it, so she loves me.
all right. This is the cost of all the parts. The Raspberry Pi itself is $35. The little Wi-Fi dongle, fun word, is $7. The power supply was $9, and then the little glass, not glass, but plastic. What was that thing made out of? Whatever. Plastic thing was $30. This is us building the XBMC server, and I took his nice case and made him one out of Legos, so I could take the nice one to Kenya.
Lego CAD. If you can sketch something on grid paper, you can use Lego CAD, and it will tell you what pieces of Lego to use to build your whatever you sketched.
This is the second one. We built the Rachel Pi, and we installed the operating system onto the laptops, and yeah, it took forever. As you'll note, it's night. We started this at about lunch. Fun.
I made her read every screen. How many sysadmins do we have out there? Yeah. I didn't let her click through. I made her read everything. So you have to experience that once in your life, right?
I don't think so. Okay. Okay, so this is it all gathered up together. You'll note his nice little case that I took, and the little Wi-Fi, and then 2 flash drives. We also took the Jesus film to show in a church. It didn't actually end up working, but we did show it to the school. And then we went to Kenya. Yeah, so we built the school, and this is what the boys had been sleeping in. It was basically like things that they had found propped up together into a shack, like a chair, a roof of I don't even know what was in that thing. So this is the frame building, and it's almost done here. And this is it finished. It ended up being the nicest building in the village. So that was my cue to bring out the Rachel Pi and see if it was working. And there was no power. They had just moved.
Their old building had power. Their new building did not. We didn't know that whenever we went.
So I went to the van because I had one of those little things where you plug in the charger. It didn't work.
So at this point, they didn't know why it didn't work, and neither did I. So she sent me an email saying, how do I turn this thing on? Because I did everything you said. So I responded back with those 6 easy steps, and then it still didn't work. So she took it to the hotel that we always base out of, and this is Salome. Salome is the manager of the hotel, but she goes out to the orphanage at least twice a week, if not more often. So she taught Salome how to use it, and then Salome would set it up there.
When it was all over, we decided to go on a safari because I had never been, and we saw awesome stuff. We saw 2 leopards on the first day. We saw a lion, we saw giraffes, and I couldn't even count the zebras. They were everywhere. And then, yeah.
So at this point, she came back on a Wednesday, and we repacked our stuff and flew out on Thursday so that we could make it to ShmooCon. So it was a tight space there. This is us presenting at ShmooCon. The really cool thing was Johnny Long came to us and said, "Hey, you guys finally went. Cool. Can I have 5 minutes at the end of it?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So at the end of our presentation, which is fairly similar to this, He stepped up on stage with this. This is, if this is 1.0, the Rachel Pi, this is version 2.0, which he calls the Pelican Pi. So basically, whenever we get to our lessons learned, this device actually takes care of all the issues that we had, and we'll explain some of what that is. It's really cool. The one condition was Emily had to build this. So what they did was presented her with all the parts. Sam and Johnny sat with her for hours while she soldered, taught her how to solder, and yeah, she had a blast.
I was terrified I was going to burn somebody with that soldering pencil. I was like, move your fingers away, move them away.
So here's our lessons learned. Number one, Rachel Pi is really easy to build. Once again, 6 easy steps. You can actually, if they require you to do something, there's a link to how to do it. So it's great with pictures. Installing the drivers on the Rachel Pi from a Mac using the terminal window is really confusing. That was her takeaway. Like I said, I had the cheat sheet that she didn't know about until last week. So if she really got stuck and couldn't get it from Google, then I would show her how to do it. If the maker recommends a part, use that part. This Wi-Fi dongle costs $7. I wanted to save $1 because I found one that cost $6, and yeah, it didn't work. The drivers were incompatible, so it cost us 3 days really while we got the new part. Raspberry Pi recommends a 1.5 amp power supply. That's perfect for a Raspberry Pi unless you throw in the wireless dongle, because then some of these wireless dongles actually will draw 1 amp of power themselves. So keep that in mind. I recommend at least a 2 amp. More lessons learned. It doesn't work well on dirty power. The problem with the van and just about everything that puts out power in Kenya is their voltage regulators absolutely suck. So whenever it says it's putting out 5 volts, you could get 1 volt to 12 volts. So Pelican Pi takes care of that. It's got its own voltage regulator internal. Have a backup plan. Even though this is wireless, because it has an Ethernet port, I sent her with a router and a Cat5 cable. So if they couldn't get the wireless working, no problem. And then what she discovered was, whenever she was teaching Salome, was that Linux was a little bit too hard for the end users there. I figured Salome would know how to, could pick up on it because she was the manager at the hotel. She'd used computers for a few years. But going from Windows, click, to Linux, trying to actually use some commands, it was a little bit too much. So what's next? Emily on the original trip had raised over $1,000 for this project. She allotted herself $100 for this project. It cost $82. With the rest of the money, she wants to buy a generator. I still have install power at the house. We just got word that they just got power installed. She went in January, so it took about 6 months for them to get power.
On my birthday.
Yeah. So, yeah, we still had to buy her a present. What's up with that? $3,000 for a ticket was just not enough. So we want to provide more computers for the kids at the orphanage. Lexmark stepped up. They basically said, we don't handle, community work at this level. 6 computers, it's not even worth the tax refund. And then, but we would like to invite you to speak at Lexmark in front of the STEM committee and the Christian Business Association. Whenever he showed up, spoke, they gave us 6 computers. So it was pretty cool. The Pelican Pi. We want to bring back the Pelican Pi to replace this one in case they have power issues. This bad boy, hold this for a second. I'm going to do my best Vanna White here. So solar power, the power port is right here. If you can get power in, it will convert it. So it will do 110 to 240, convert it to 5 volts DC. Nice, pretty clean signal out. It's got a current time 6-hour battery. We actually have a 12-hour battery. I just haven't soldered it in. It's got the Rachel Pi in there. It also has this little red board from Adafruit. Will actually allow you to shut down the Raspberry Pi gracefully. Raspberry Pi will tell you the proper way to shut down the Pi is to pull power. And it's because that's all they have. I mean, it's just a board. What this board does, you hold this button down for 10 seconds, it starts the init command, and you can pre-program it to tell it if you want, like 0 or whatever you want, and it will gracefully shut down the Pelican Pi, so that's really nice. This is version 2. Version 3 of this actually has the HDMI port out. Johnny uses that for showing videos at remote villages, and so that's this. We'll have this all day to if you want to take a look at it. And then we were planning on going back this summer or fall. It actually looks like we're going to go back next spring. The reason for that, my mother-in-law, the person that we're supporting, her mission there, she just had knee replacement, and she's having the other one soon. So she's not able to travel. We want to take her with us. Once again, we didn't do any of this on our own. We got it all from somebody else. You can too, and here's the links to all of it. So are there any questions? Yes, sir.
What was the biggest source of frustration for both? And what was the biggest payoff?
For me, the frustration was sitting for hours and hours and hours and hours on end, doing stuff that I had no idea what I was doing.
What was your payoff? Best payoff?
Oh, okay, so in the village, the director of the orphanage, her name is Jane, and she knows don't use a bathroom in your drinking water. But a lot of people in the village just, why not? So this will help them learn.
So some of the software on it is actually from the World Health Organization, and it's simple rules to follow. And one of them literally is don't pee where you drink. And that was an eye-opener for a lot of the villagers. They're like, why not? So what does it matter? It's just water. So that was a big one. For me, the most frustrating bit was not allowing myself to just do it for her, especially when we were having the driver issues, and not cheating and giving her. I really did make her do the research. The most rewarding bit was just seeing her grow. So she started this project whenever she was 13. She had never spoke publicly, ever. Her first public speaking engagement was ShmooCon, with about 2,000 people in the room. Yes, that deserves that. Absolutely. And I'll tell you a quick little story. Whenever I got up on stage, I turned around and I went, wow. And she looked at me and said, Dad, why are they all leaving? And immediately I'm like, oh, I got to protect my daughter. This is, So I said, sometime the previous speaker, they're probably fielding questions outside. So don't be upset. And she goes, I'm not upset. I just want to know why they're leaving. This is about right. And I'm like, about right? There's 2,000 people in this room. I want like 10. And so that was cool. So you had a question back there? Okay, so the question is, whenever I was discussing the batteries, I was talking about the 12-hour battery life on the bigger battery, and apparently, no, I did not look at using the USB batteries. I have one in my backpack. I just never thought about powering the Rachel Pi with it, so that's hilarious. No, once again, no new ideas here. We stole from everybody else. So if someone else would have done that, then I would have done it too. Yes, yes. The question is, have we ever thought about using a secondary case, one inside being used, the other one outside being charged? The answer to that is no, because we were able to raise a little over $2,000 for this next trip. The rest of it's coming out of my pocket, and I'm sending 4 of us this time. So that's almost $12,000 total for all of us. No, this costs $300, so I can't really afford to do 2. Not yet. But they only have school for a few hours a day. I don't know if you've ever been to Africa. There's no clouds. Like in Kenya, It rains like once a year. It just happens to rain for like 6 weeks. But so no, not yet, not yet. Once we get our feet under us and get accustomed to this, we'll probably do that. Yeah. Right. Right. No, so we have not been accepting money from anyone. We're willing to, but I'm not promoting that. The Appalachian Institute for Digital Evidence hired Emily and myself as contractors for their conference. So we got paid $2,000 for that, which was cool. The rest of the stuff is just people walking up to us, handing us $5, $10 there. So we've never really solicited money, and you're already reaching for your wallet, and that's not what I was wanting. We believe in the philosophy, give until it hurts. So we have to give until it hurts before we ask for it. So. Oh, yeah, yeah. Now, one thing you can do, and Johnny Law did say, was if you go to his website, he's got 2 places you can donate. One of them is the Long Family Journey, so that goes directly to him. The other one is for Hackers for Charity. If you click on that one, in the remarks, add our names, he would reserve that money for us. This is actually the first time we put it out because that's not what we're looking for. So I do appreciate it, and yeah. Right, right. But we also don't want to compete with Johnny. So we're doing the same thing, different areas. We're not as big. So, and that is our time, as my daughter just pointed out. Yeah, 1 minute. Any last question right here?
We haven't really done that, but that'd be a good idea.
Her baby sister already has a blog, so maybe we'll start you one today. Huh? We'll just make hers public. There you go. All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it. And thanks for having us.